In this video, everyone, renting out your pride and joy. And by that, of course, we mean your campervan or motorhome. Pop, biscuits, computer. Hello again, everyone. Another bright sunny day in Derbyshire. I have pop and have biscuits. That makes me a happy chap. Oh, I've got 3 biscuits, even better. Firstly, I just want to say, everyone, thank you very much for joining us. So in this video, we're going to discuss the options if you are considering renting out your campervan or motorhome. Now, of course, these vehicles, they are a big investment. And we hopefully, therefore, treat them with a lot of love and care. And they do give us some wonderful holidays. But some people, particularly those where the vans maybe aren't being used all the time, which, let's be honest, is many of us, consider the possibility of whether to rent out the vehicle while it's not in use, because at the end of the day, it's not going anywhere. It's still costing you money, or it's cost you money. Maybe you can earn some money by renting it out. What's the pros? What's the cons? We're going to take a look. Now, in this video, everyone, we are again going to put a spreadsheet on our Google Drive, and a link to that spreadsheet will be in the description below this video. Please feel free to go and have a look, or maybe even download it. It is that spreadsheet that you can download that we'll be using today. Hopefully these are in some kind of logical order. And as always, I'm going to say, of course, if at the end of this video you think we've missed something out, that's fine. We are human. Please leave what we missed out in the comments below so that we can all have a look. At the end of the day, we are all helping each other out. It's a lovely van community. Let's make this better for everyone. So, of course, the first approach might be what you could call a DIY approach. Now, on the DIY approach, there are some obvious notes on the spreadsheet. DIY could mean taking pictures, using social media. Maybe you'll create your own website. Some of you might. You may do all or some of the above. Now, the pros, of course, to DIY include, well, you're going to maximise your profit for a start because you're cutting out the middleman or the middle lady. And you'll also have the feeling of being in complete control, of course, because ultimately you're doing everything yourself. So what are some of the cons? Well, of course, it would be more labour intensive. You are, after all, doing all the work yourself. You will also probably have a limited audience. What do I mean by that? Well, I guess you could liken it to if you're selling your property, maybe you don't want to use an estate agent. They are expensive after all. And you're selling it yourself. That can work, of course, and you can save yourself some money. But the audience that sees it is doubtless going to be much reduced versus using an estate agent. And of course, there would be no mediator if things go wrong. We'll discuss a bit more about that in a little while. So, of course, the next option is what I would call facilitating companies. Now, here in the UK, there are a number of them, and we've listed a few at the bottom of the spreadsheet. There's some handy links. Please go and check it out. The link to the spreadsheet, as I've already said, is in the description below this video. So, of course, what are some of the pros of using a facilitating company? Well, you would now have a mediator. They usually handle the deposits and payments. You would have access to many more potential customers. Ooh. You'd have customer vetting. Many companies can provide you with insurance options. And that could be day insurance or annual insurance. So what are some of the cons? Well, of course, you'll now have a middleman, or lady, as I like to say. They will charge a service fee for the pleasure, of course. Now, this typically can be anything approximately around 8% to maybe 20%. Or beyond. That is, of course, going to erode the profits that you are hoping to make. So the next thing on the spreadsheet is something called things to consider. There's quite a list. You got insurance, increased servicing, both in frequency and cost, because ultimately your van's now going to be doing more miles, and more miles means more frequent servicing. More frequent servicing means more cost, obviously. Dealing with queries, this could be any time. Particularly if you're doing it the DIY approach, of course. Purchasing spare equipment. Now, what do we mean by this? Well, of course, you may be renting the van out 1 week and then the van may come back. You might be almost immediately going back out on a further rental. It could come back with broken plates, could come back with broken anything really, so it's a decision to make as to what spares you would keep so that you can replenish them very quickly and not lose out on that next rental. Preparing the van for hire, so of course we're saying cleaning, etc. Giving the van a good check over. Now, I am sure we would all be asking our potential renters to bring the van back in the same condition. We're going to talk a bit more about condition in a few minutes. To bring the van back in the same condition for which they collected it. It's only natural. But of course, unfortunately, not everyone is the same, and the van may not come back quite how you want it. At the end of the day, I am sure we would want to go round the van and make sure it is absolutely spick and span, ready for that next rental. Allowing time for the vehicle handover. Many people, of course, renting your campervan or motorhome may have never done it before. Now, in some respects, that puts the fear of God into me, but moving on, they may have no idea how your van works, so of course you're going to have to allow time and energy to go and show them around your van. You may need to ensure that your existing insurance policy, even if you're not going to be relying on it from a rental perspective, is going to accept the differences in mileage, because for some insurers, they like to know the mileage of the van on any given year. Now, if that's the case, of course, you might have allowed for, I don't know, let's put an example, 6,000 miles of travel for yourself in the year. But the vehicle may now cover 9, 10, 11, 12,000 miles or more. So it's just ensuring that there'll be no issues when it comes to giving them the mileage for the following year. Not all insurers do that, but I am aware that some that do. Gas certificates or liability insurance, we'll mention a bit more about that shortly. Then next on the spreadsheet that we've got is something called expected earnings. Now, at the end of the day, these are our pride and joys. They cost a lot of money. They're our memory makers, as I like to call them. We're not surely doing this just for fun. We're not going to do it as a charity. We're obviously doing it to make a bit of money. What can we expect to earn? Well, of course, this is dependent on many factors, and although this is not an exhaustive list, it can include the vehicle, of course, i.e. what type, what age, what specification, and believe it or not, the location of the vehicle, because of course to some people, certain locations will be more, shall we say, hot spots than others. How many seat belts? How many berths? As an example, everyone, on the Camp 2 website, now a link to the Camp 2 website is part of the links at the bottom of the spreadsheet. Please go and check them out. I put in our roller team T-Line 590 motorhome, the one that we're sitting in now, of course, into their little estimating checker, whatever you want to call it, to see how much I could possibly make if I rented out this van. As to whether we'd rent this van out or not, of course, well, we'll talk about that at the end of the video. Now, this one is a 2020 model. It's 4 belted, or 4 seat belts, and 4 berth. What would they quote? So I put the information in, and it gave me a possible £901 per week. Now, of course, this is subject to the time of year, the actual vehicle itself, whichever one you're putting in yourself, of course. But I thought to myself, £901, that's quite a lot of money, even allowing for the fact that there'll be probably commission coming off that. Now, I'm going to read a little comment that Camp 2 states on their website, and I'll read it verbatim. Did you know that when your motorhome or campervan is not used during the summer, you're possibly missing out on £750 per week? £750. I'm sure you just told me it was £901 for this van. Moving on. Why not give someone else the chance to enjoy the fun of a camping experience? Now, I'd probably caveat that with saying, yeah, why not give them some fun? But why not make sure somehow that they also bring it back in a way that you can still have some fun, because the van comes back in excellent condition. The next item on the spreadsheet is something I've called other points to note. Now, you'll see there are a lot of them, so we'll rattle them off as quickly as we can. It's not an exhaustive list again, so if you think of something that we may have missed, please feel free to put it in the comments. We will not be offended. We're just all trying to help each other out, and that's why we make these videos, in the hope that we are helping people out. So, pressing on, we have, it is your pride and joy, as we've already said in the video. Renters may not treat it the same. Now, I remember the older Dodge I used to use, albeit it was for cars, that the fastest cars were rental cars. Well, unfortunately, that is the case. What it's trying to say, of course, is it's not necessarily going to be treated the same way as you would treat it yourself. If you're going to be using a facilitating company, of course, they're going to need a lot of information from you, including your V5C, which in the UK is effectively the registered keeper's document. They would want proof of insurance, MOT certificate, if it's applicable, personal identifying documents, your bank details, because of course at the end of the day you want to be receiving payments, and usually a gas, electricity stroke habitation check. Now, of course, for many of us, certainly for us in our van, we have the annual habitation check done anyway. It's our choice. You don't have to have them done. You do have to have them done if you want Roller Team to honour any warranty claims in the future. But from a health and safety point of view, we just have it done anyway. I think we're having our next one done by JB Caravans. He was in this video for last year's habitation check. I think we're having it done in April. Might do a little video just to see if we got any problems with our van since the last time. Fingers crossed, hopefully not. You got to consider breakdown cover. Now, that may be packaged, of course, with some insurers. You must have adequate insurance to cover both parties in the event of injury or damage. You would need to consider any excesses applied to the policy, of course. What will you supply for the rental? Now, there's a question. Awnings, chairs, bedding. And of course, some of those could be chargeable items. Make a little bit more money. As we've sort of touched on already in the video, you need to consider where you'd be delivering or collecting the vehicle from. It may, for whatever reason, not be from outside the front of your house. In fact, I can probably think of reasons, i.e. security, why you may not want it to be from the front of your house. But anyway, moving on. Will you permit European travel? If so, there will be certain legal requirement items that you need to keep on your van. Now, of course, if you're doing European travel in your van anyway, then you will no doubt have these items in the van already. These items include breathalyzer kits. Now, you need 2 of those, and of course they need to be within their usable date. Fluorescent jackets and a warning triangle. Will you be setting any mileage restrictions? Handling speeding and parking fines? What if the van is involved in an accident or is damaged at least in some way, and you've got another renter that's going to be using the van as soon as it comes back off that rental? These are the kind of things we need to be thinking of. Tax implications. Now, of course, when it comes to tax, there'll be a lot of different opinions. And whilst I don't mind people giving me their opinions in the comments, in fact, we actively encourage people giving opinions underneath our videos in the comments, I will just simply read verbatim what it says on the Camp2 website. And I have put a link to the HMRC website, which is obviously for the UK, in amongst the links in the spreadsheet that you can download. It's in the description, everyone, below this video. Camp2 say, it is the responsibility of individuals and businesses to report their income in a tax return at the end of the financial year. Expenses can also be accounted for. Ooh. So remember to keep your receipts. For in-depth advice, we advise owners to speak to their tax accountant, yeah, like we've all got one of them on speed dial, about their individual situation. The next on the spreadsheet, as you'll see, is a link to a number of facilitating companies, as I've called them, and I have put on there for you to peruse at your leisure. Camplify, Camp2, Go Booney, probably pronounced some of these wrongs. I'm from Birmingham, so hey ho. Quirky Campers, Camper Bug, and Yes Kappa. You'll also see I've put what I've called, hopefully, a useful resource link to a website called Only Outdoors. And as we've just said, a link to our good old UK government HMRC website when it comes to self-assessment from a tax perspective. So I guess to round this video off, everyone, there's an obvious question, certainly for us. Would we rent out our motorhome? Now, we've seriously considered it. Although we use it quite a lot, it's certainly not used all the time, and when it's not being used, it's not earning any money, it's not earning its keep. But the decision was really easy for us, everyone, and that is no, we wouldn't. Now, that of course doesn't mean that you shouldn't. But on a personal level, which is all I can speak about, this is absolutely our pride and joy. It cost us a lot of money. Whether the van is new or new to you, these vehicles are expensive. I love and cherish my vehicles anyway. My cars get polished to within an inch of their life. But even if you're not that fastidious about keeping things so shiny, it still is your pride and joy. It's your memory maker, as I do like to call them. I just couldn't bear the thought of seeing it drive down the road and not knowing what's happening to it. If you think of the amount of items in a campervan or motorhome that a prospective renter has to get used to, particularly if you consider that many of them will never have hired one before in their lives, to me there's just too many variables, too many risks, too many ways that something can go wrong. So we would certainly not be hiring out our motorhome. And the final point I'd like to mention, everyone, is when we knew we were going to be doing this video, and we did quite a lot of research for it, as you would expect us to do so, we created a poll in the wonderful motorhome group on Facebook called Motorhome Happiness. Fantastic group, very happy people. I think the proof is in the name. I'll put a link to Motorhome Happiness Facebook group in the description below the video. We created a poll. I was keen to see what other people felt about possibly renting out their pride and joys, and the results were interesting. Now I'll put it on screen now. Effectively, I put 4 options in the poll. I put would never do it, it's my baby, and my memory maker. I already do it and it's been fine. I did and never would again. And finally, still considering the options, which you may be doing watching this video now. So as you can see, there was 146 votes placed, and I would like to take this opportunity now to sincerely thank everyone in the Motorhome Happiness Facebook group that placed a vote on our poll. It's really helpful. Thank you very much. As you can see, 142 of the 146 people voted for would never do it. We of course are on the same camp, so we'll say that's 143. 4 people voted for I already do it and it's been fine, which is good to know. It can't all be bad. But nobody elected for the I did it and never would again, and nobody has said that they're still considering their options. I just thought it'd be a good litmus test just to see what other fellow campervan and motorhome owners thought about renting out their van. So that's it, everyone. Thank you very much for getting to the end of this video. We sincerely hope you found it informative. If you did, we're going to ask you to consider giving it the thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. There'll be a link roughly about there in a few seconds. Click on it, subscribe. It really helps build the channel. And it is of course free. We would not be asking you to do it if it was going to be costing you money. The next video will be another informative one with another spreadsheet in another section of our Live for Travel Google Drive, and it's going to be a good one. It's going to be the future of campervan and motorhomes when they are EVs. See you soon. And crumbs on my computer now. Crumbs, chief. I bet most of us are old enough to remember Danger Mouse and Penball, don't we? But it may come back with, could be something silly like broken. We'll do that bit again. Come on, Biggs. Gas insurance. No, gas insurance. Can you have gas insurance? If we're... I wonder if that pilot... Can you hear that little plane? I wonder if that pilot appreciates I'm trying to film a YouTube video. Don't think that really matters to him, does it? Now, as an example, do I blame it on the cold or just being a Brumley, or both? And the next one on the... My nose is running now. It's cold in here. I'm well a nose to run. Can you imagine flooding the van with this nose? Facilitating. Say facilitating. Facilitating. And usually a gas electricity